Okay, so this one's about the nature of curiosity. Curiosity is a funny one because I'm endlessly curious myself. And, you know, a unique thing about the nature of curiosity is that we don't really know why we're curious. And so when people try to, if someone asks us to justify our actions when we're in the mode of exploring our curiosity, you're kind of dumbfounded. Why did you do that? It's impossible to justify. It's impossible to justify. And this is a real challenge in business, because if you're, I would say a typical culture within, especially a startup company, is the culture of being lean and agile. Lean meaning you're cost efficient, you're not wasting money. Agile meaning you're relatively nimble and you can pivot and reconstitute projects and tasks, ad hoc, on the fly, but your the sprint goal, or the milestones, and the timelines attached to those are rigid. So it's a great culture. You've got your goals. Everyone's committed to reaching the goal. Yet, in between, the time and space between here and now is fluid, and that's exactly like the nature of the universe. Time and space is fluid, but there are absolute limits within. There are absolute constraints. So, for the most part, it works well. But where it really falls over and dies is innovation. Because and it's important to distinguish that innovation is different to progress. Progress means you've set a goal, and today I'm doing this, and if tomorrow if I do that, it means that the next day I can do that, and then once I've done that, it means the next day I can then do that, and so on. And so you make progress and you achieve your goal, and you make relentless and sustained progress, and it's essential. And I think for any organization, that's a fantastic baseline. For any organization is a culture of sustained progress within fixed constraints across time. And that's great. It's extremely ordered, and it's brilliant. But that's not innovation. That is not innovation. Innovation is spawned by curiosity. So you could be, let's say you've got a milestone to achieve by the end of the month. All you're focusing on day to day is are justifiable tasks. Everything is justifiable. If I invest myself into this for an hour, it means that in an hour's time, I will then be ready to invest myself into that. And once I'm capable of investing myself into that, it means that. And so you imagine you've got all these tasks as little circles, and then you're just connecting the dots. Means that this, then it means that, and it means that. And so it's completely ordered and justifiable. However, innovation comes from curiosity. And if you try to apply the same, if you try to apply the same kind of setup, the same methodology to curiosity, you don't. Curiosity isn't always ordered, especially not in the beginning. If you're curious about something, like I know for myself, I'm a classic, and it's like You know, sometimes I feel like I'm omnipresent because I've got a million tabs open in Google Chrome. And while it looks chaotic, I'm aware of everything that's open and a connection from what I've just been reading on that page to something on that page. And I can see a concept forming. And so then I find something, and then that spawns another piece of curiosity. And so it's a similar process where, you know, using the analogy of the circles, when you've set a goal to achieve, and if I do this, it means that, and then if I do that, it means that. Now, in that scenario, what you're doing is you're taking a two-dimensional observer view. You're above, looking down on those circles on paper, and you're connecting the dots. You can see the beginning and the end because you're the observer looking down upon time and space that has a fixed beginning, has a fixed end, and you're putting the circles in the middle between the beginning and the end, and then you're connecting the circles together to create a beginning and an ending. But when you're exploring curiosity, you're not doing that as the observer, you see. You're not looking down on yourself, and you cannot see the beginning and you cannot see the end. And so you're exploring through your own two eyes. You can't see the ending. All you're doing is you're starting from a beginning and you're exploring. Now, this is wonderful. It's so much fun because you're venturing into the unknown. You're not doing it for any reason other than the inspiration within your body. You've been, you know, a deposit of kinetic energy has been made within your body that contains an impulse to behave in a specific way, and you're just following it. You're just trusting it and going, ooh. And I know with me, I've got a million tabs open on Chrome, and I've got this feeling like I'm searching for something, like the Holy Grail, and I don't know what it is. And I'm just typing in, you know, Google search words that I think are related. Then I'll read something on that page, and then I'll read something and I'll go, oh, all of a sudden I'll gain a perspective and an understanding that I didn't have before. And then that opens up another field of potentiality. And so then I start distilling the potentialities within that. Then, you know, refining those into probabilities. And then, you know, finally you distill it to a point where you want to act. And so then I search for something else or whatever it may be. But I'm not searching for an ending. I'm seeking to explore where the potential of the now can take me next. And this is very, very important. This is not from the perspective of the observer. But you need both in business. And so the only time that you can, if you want to allow for curiosity within business, you can't set an ending to it. You need to commit to being endlessly curious. But you also need to establish a baseline of activity that provides a culture of sustained progress, despite any progress that's made, through any innovation that's made by exploring curiosity. And so the teams I've built in the past, I've always, you know, I've normally been in scenarios, well, during my career anyway, where I've got massive portfolios of assets, normally the clients of an organization, and then I've got big teams of portfolio managers managing tiered portfolios of assets within the organization, you know, business development managers, account managers, key account managers, sales managers, the administrative support people, you know, procurement people, product developers, product managers, sometimes advertising, marketing people. And so if you establish a baseline of, a culture of being lean and agile, and a culture of being target focused, so you've got a 12-month period cut into 12-month segments, and then each month is cut into either a 4 or 5 week month, and then you're seeking to hit daily averages every day, and whatever's not made from the day before, you seek to make it up on the next day. So you've got total accountability for achieving the milestones, but they're fluid in between. So if you don't hit a target on one day, then you're seeking to make up what was lost from the previous day in the coming day. And it's a day by day commitment to sustain progress, seeking to be in a surplus by the end of that month. And if you are in a deficit, you're proactively seeking to fill in the hole that's left by that deficit, as well as create the planned surplus. So you're making sustained progress. You're committing to hitting an agreed target, or a predetermined target, utilizing predetermined activities from the perspective of from above looking down in 2 dimensions, being able to see the beginning and the end, and filling the space in between, filling the time and space in between. That's great. You can hit your targets. You can make everyone in the organization happy with that culture. You can run the business unit autonomously as a super organism that self-regulates and self-organizes, but it's pretty prescriptive, and there's no room for innovation in that model. So what do you do? Well, what I found is I've been experimenting with this stuff for most of my life. So the sweet spot for me is 11.5%. So if you commit whatever the target is, it was normally I would be having a conversation with the CEO or the general manager of the business, and whatever number they want, I negotiate to deliver 11.5% above it, or in my mind, I decide that we're going to hit 11.5% above it, and make sure so that I create the budget to invest. So whatever the sales revenue is, at a specific margin, then that can be reinvested in exploring curiosity. And curiosity just means someone's got an idea out of the blue. It doesn't mean anything. They might have had a dream. They might have been in the shower that morning. Oh, I had this idea. We could da-da-da-da and blah, blah, blah. and all we do is commit to exploring it. And together, brainstorming. And this is what you do. And it doesn't need to be some rigid, anal, ordered process that's facilitated by an expert project manager or whatever it may be. You just get people in a room, you put the sponsoring idea up, and all it is an idea. It has no purpose. It doesn't even have any intention. It doesn't even have any utility. Other than it's in a business context, it's obviously going to be business related to some degree. But it might be, it could be something that has a charitable purpose. Like, maybe one of your clients, they're struggling with something, and, maybe they got hit by a tornado, and, so we organize a working bee, and we go around and do a working bee, and or whatever. It could be absolutely anything, but it's something that we're inspired by for seemingly no reason, other than we can feel the kinetic energy within our body compelling us to act. And so we're in a room, here's the idea, and the person explains the idea. I had this idea, this is what it is. And you invite people to share their thoughts first. Any other thoughts? Oh, and normally they'll try to seek understanding. And here's the thing. When it's curiosity, you don't always understand it yourself. What does it mean? Don't know. And this is where the process begins. You begin to imbue meaning into that curiosity. And normally it begins with just exploring that curiosity as much as you can to begin with. All this. And so you collectively come together and you agree that here are some things, some projects or some activities we can all be involved with to explore the potential of this. And so you're committing to investing yourself into exploring curiosity with a fail fast mentality. We want to fail fast, because the faster we fail, the more we'll learn about this. But you go into it actually seeking to fail and be rejected, and as much as possible. And in any team that I assemble, I always have lead validators in that team. And a lead validator is someone who is totally comfortable making between 60 and 120 cold phone calls a day and being rejected, and maybe having a success rate of 1%, and just oblivious to rejection. And so that if there's any scenarios where we're actually seeking as much rejection as possible until we randomly succeed, so that we can understand what this thing is, then you can just endlessly explore these things. And so, if it's a business related thing, someone could have had this idea, and that idea might be, we could pitch this to XYZ archetype, and we've got no market data to tell us this. We haven't done a value chain analysis. We haven't spoken to industry experts. We don't know the trends and issues. We don't have a real living, breathing example of this human being. It's just an idea. And so you just go into it being prepared to fail fast. You begin with a bunch of scripts, and you just go and explore your curiosity until you strike gold. You just go out there and you fail until you strike gold. But you have to commit to investing in this. But you have to, the key is to never utilize, is to never fund curiosity out of a deficit. And because you need to deliver your baseline no matter what. And so if you're not funding that curiosity, if it's not being funded by a surplus within the organization, then it's just going to put pressure on everyone. When you're trying to explore your curiosity, people are worried about their sales targets. Are they going to earn their commission? Am I going to pay the bills this week? And so and this is like a magic key to life, really, is for a child who is endlessly curious, because they don't have any conception of the ending of their life when it's just beginning. They don't have any conception of lack, because hopefully they're being well nurtured and looked after by the totality of the environment around them, consisting of their parents and their family and their teachers. They just feel totally safe and protected, and they're fearless. So they're just endlessly curious. Why would they even bother conceiving of an ending when they can just endlessly explore their curiosity from an abundant perspective? And I would say this is one of the things about becoming an adult that really hits you like a ton of bricks once you go into the workforce. And especially once others become dependent on you, and you're wanting to be a provider and all the rest of these things. If you're funding that curiosity, if you're investing in the things that you're curious about, without a baseline that ensures survival or ensures a basic sustainable quality of life, if you're using that to explore curiosity, then you're just continuously destabilizing yourself. And I think one of the greatest barriers, one of the greatest issues people have in their life is a sense of entitlement to, I don't know, having nice things, to having what they want, to spending money, to having a holiday. And of course you are entitled to spend your money on whatever you want. You can use a deficit. You can erode your baseline of survival baseline to fund those things. And believe me, I've taken many risks in my life to explore curiosity and sacrifice my baseline, only because I've got some strange, unwavering sense of faith in myself that is that I can't really justify. But I just feel like no matter what, I'm always going to be okay. But I don't have children or anything like that. And, I've been through a ruthless period of, putting myself into isolation so I can, gift myself all of my own time and energy to invest. But, I think the thing I would love to make to normalize for people is, going into schools and helping children to learn this really, really, really early on is to help them understand their curiosity, and to make it okay to explore that curiosity, but to help them figure out how to treat it as a privilege rather than an entitlement. Because the first thing you have to protect and ensure is your own life. You have to figure out how that you are going to be able to survive no matter what happens. If a bomb goes off, if there's an earthquake, if there's a coup in the government, depending on how far you want to go, obviously, but how can I ensure that no matter what happens, I'll survive? That my life is taken care of. Once you've got that, how can I begin accumulating surplus? And once you have that surplus, what am I curious about that I'm just bursting to explore and not have to justify myself to anyone? And that's what curiosity is. But figure out how to create a surplus that doesn't put your life at risk, that doesn't threaten your baseline quality of life. And then get ready to just go nuts, because you don't have to justify. No one has to justify curiosity. No one has to justify curiosity. But what we do need to do is make sure that, at least we've got an established baseline that we're never going to erode or sacrifice, in order to explore curiosity when other people are involved, and when that comes to business, if I'm heading up a big business unit for a large corporation with shareholders and all these kinds of things, whatever commitment I make to them, I'm committed to that. And so if I want a surplus to explore curiosity, I have to bring that in addition. But what eventually happens is you come to realize that curiosity is the source of innovation for your organization or for your business unit. You begin to realize that curiosity is, if you have faith in it and you invest in it, it is a source of what I would call chaotic innovation, where it creates progress in the organization, not in a non-linear way. Progress is linear. It involves time and space. If I start here and then I move here, it means that I can then move there. Once I've moved there, it means that it's totally linear. And so curiosity is non-linear because it exists without a point. So it emerges from 0 point, from there being absolutely 0 point. There's no point to this. It's just an idea. And so it's not bound to or constricted to linear time and space. Here's an idea I'm curious about. Plonk, it's chaotic, it's unjustifiable, it is irrational potentially, but if I can bring order to it, utilizing fail fast, not utilizing agile and lean, that won't work because you don't know what the ending looks like. If you invest yourself in it, it always pays dividends, and often, and this is what I find very often, is it will render what you're doing with your lean and agile stuff, it'll render it obsolete because you're innovating, and you're finding that the way that you've innovated has made you even more efficient, and that's when you go back and reconstitute your pipeline, reconstitute your targets, reconstitute your method, because of a new innovation that has been validated using fail fast. Using fail fast. You do not validate innovation with agile and lean methodologies. You implement agile and lean methodologies once you can see the ending of the beginning. Once you can see the ending of the beginning, then you can apply agile and lean methodologies because it's linear. And man, for people that really don't live in this world or in this space, it can be quite challenging to wrap your head around this. And once you embed a culture of this in your organization, it's much, much easier to bring new people into it. But yeah, so that's basically what I want to say, is the nature of curiosity. It's non-linear. It emerges from the 0 point, so there's no point to it. And because there's no point, it's non-linear. There's a beginning, but you can't see the ending yet. And the only way you can get to an ending is by exploring it, purposefully seeking failure, and failing as many times as you can and as fast as possible until you succeed. Once you've succeeded, you can then see the ending. So you've got a beginning and an end, and then you can implement agile and lean methodologies to turn the journey into a blueprint and a method, and then optimize that innovation using agile and lean. But you have to have both fail fast and agile and lean. And when you think about it, it's such is life, such is the nature of the universe, such is the nature of the human body. What do you want your body to be? You want it to be agile. You want it to be lean. You don't want it to be storing too much surplus fat. You don't want it to have a surplus of too much at all. You want it to be agile. You want it to run lean and efficient. And then in terms of strength, growing strength, so that you, in order to build strength is innovation. Strength is building muscle in order to strengthen parts of your body that are weak or vulnerable. And in order to grow muscle in places where there is weakness, the weakness has to be exposed and exploited. So if I've got a lower, if I'm vulnerable in my lower back, I have to first of all, illuminate the fact that I'm weak there. And then I not only have to illuminate it, but I have to expose it to a load and exploit it. And so I push it to failure. So I'm going to engage my lower back muscles and take them as far as they can until they fail. And that failure, it initiates growth. And growth is innovation. New growth. It's new muscle that didn't exist before. So, we want to be lean, agile, and we want to fail fast. And that is how we create sustained progress. We maintain a level of being lean and agile, and then we're proactively initiating growth in order to become stronger by failing fast. And we do that by going as far as we can until we fail. And there's the secret of life. Everything works like this. If you're creating an organization that's a company or a DAO or a combination or a trust, a charity, you want it to behave like this. You want it to behave like this. You want it to survive. You want to ensure its survival. You want it to be able to endlessly explore its curiosity, which means you have to have a baseline of an accumulated surplus. And out of that accumulated surplus, you are then free to invest that for no reason at all, other than exploring curiosity, understanding that it's leading you to innovation that's likely to render some aspect of your nature obsolete. And biologically, this is where we would see old genes within your DNA being turned off and new genes being turned on. So something is being retired and something else is being activated. And you're actualizing more and more of your latent genetic potential. And, that's what we want to do in organizations and companies as well. And ultimately, in the way that we govern ourselves as well. We need to get to this place. So, yeah, this is a wealth generating mentality and mindset that everything, all innovation is spawned from an accumulated surplus, and the accumulated surplus is in a state of use it or lose it. So I've got lots of decision-making algorithms I've been stockpiling for, to be utilized in artificial intelligence down the track. And this is one of them, the use it or lose it mechanism of, none of us want to accumulate too much of a surplus. We don't want to carry too much body fat, because it eventually becomes an encumbrance. And if we hold on to it too long, it begins to stagnate, begins to decay, it begins to decompose, it begins to become a burden. And that's the burden of wealth. And believe me, wealth can be an extreme burden. If you don't have a value chain that's capable of metabolizing wealth to meet the unmet need of the ecosystem, then that's what happens, is it stagnates, and you have to figure out ways to liberate it. So anyway, I could obviously go on about this for forever and a day, but I really wanted to just hone in on curiosity, because we need to be curious. All of the solutions to tomorrow's problems will come from curiosity, but we have to ensure our own survival first, which means we have to earn the right to investing in that curiosity by establishing a baseline experience of sustained progress, and all curiosity is invested in, and therefore innovation, out of a surplus. And all of these algorithms exist within nature and can be implemented into autonomous organizations that are run utilizing artificial intelligence, which means that, someone with severe disability who's blind, potentially deaf, or, any number of things, can run an autonomous organization. And the only component they need to consider investing themselves into is whatever it is they want to do. Whatever it is, the product it is that they're creating, whatever the expertise, the skills, the resources they want to invest into the ecosystem, then with autonomous organizations and artificial intelligence and decision-making algorithms based on wealth-generating ecosystems that relentlessly thrive and create interdependency and diversity, then we can imbue that into software and into autonomous organizations that are perpetual and self-sustaining. And if someone gets hit by a bus, then, that the blueprint remains and someone else can step in and take the place of that person, or it gets subsumed, or, you know, it self-organizes. All of this technology is available now. And all the answers are hidden in plain sight in nature. So, yeah, always endlessly be curious, especially in your spare time, because your spare time is your own. You don't have to justify it to anyone. You know, you don't always have to have a reason for why you're doing the things that you're doing. You know, what'd you get up to in the weekend? Oh, went to here and there and there. Oh, why'd you do that? Who knows? Who knows? It's just a feeling in your body, and you give yourself permission to appreciate the kinetic energy that's already there by allowing it to guide you, because you can't see the ending, you can only see the beginning. And you're allowing yourself to be taken on a path towards an unseen destination that you know is likely going to render some part of your nature obsolete, and is going to activate dormant potential of some other aspect. So, you know, you can see curiosity as a state of becoming. And what's more cool than that? It's so cool. So, okay. That's it for now for the nature of curiosity. Talk soon.